to the October 12th Community Redevelopment Agency board meeting. We want to welcome everyone who is in attendance and those who may be watching. We have a short agenda this morning, which is a good thing, but packed with much needed information and action. So, Mr. Chair, we're going to go ahead and call this meeting, I'm not Mr. Chair, Mr. Executive Director, we're going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. And are there any agenda modifications?
No, ma'am.
Okay, well, are there any presentations?
No, ma'am.
Okay, we'll go straight to public comment. Ms. Sheila, do we have any public comment?
Good morning.
Good
We
morning.
do not at this time. Board of Directors Chair.
All right, well, great. All right, well, we will keep it rolling. We have any items for consent?
Just a minute.
Move. Second.
It has been properly moved and second that we move the consent agenda, which consists of just our minutes. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Same sign. Thank you very much. Okay, moving right along to the Greater Frenchtown Southside District Policy Formation and Direction. Mr. Director.
Yes, we have Ashley Edwards with the City of Tallahassee.
Hey, Ashley.
She'll give the presentation for Frenchtown Neighborhood First Plan.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm going to actually ask our Neighborhood Affairs Manager, John Baker, to give this presentation, but I just wanted to take a minute to let you all know what an outstanding job the community is doing with the funding that you all are providing, and also what an outstanding job our staff is doing working with the community to guide them through this process. And I think that you'll see in our presentation today that there are very positive impacts being made in this neighborhood, and we're very pleased and proud of the efforts. But I did want to just take a minute to recognize not only the neighbors in the Frenchtown area that are working so hard, but our staff, and commend them. So with that, I'll turn it over to John Baker.
All right, thank you very much. And we concur, because we hear too, that a lot of work is going on, and we're coming to some agreements so that we can hit the gas. So we're glad to hear that. So, Mr. Baker.
Good morning, Madam Chair, board members, good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to present the funding request from Frenchtown. This is for the second allocation of the $6.4 million that you allocated to Frenchtown back in 2021. Just in terms of orienting you a little bit, in 2021, you adopted the Frenchtown Neighborhood First Plan, and that's after having worked with the community probably for about 18 months going through COVID. At that time, you approved and allocated $6.4 million over several years for the implementation of the plan. On adoption, we presented projects totaling $4.3 million, which you also approved. Currently, we have approximately $3.3 million to allocate, and the request this morning is to approve the specific projects and priorities that the community has, for the remaining funds. In 2021, when the plan was approved, housing, you approved $1.4 million for housing program, $260,000 for neighborhood safety and crime prevention, health and resident empowerment at $750,000, economic development $1 million, placemaking neighborhood image $665,000, land use and transportation $250,000. Having worked with the CRA staff over the summer of this month, we had to go back and look at some of the programs that were funded because of the interpretation of new changes to the CRA statutes, and therefore approximately $1.3 million that were previously allocated to projects, we had to de-obligate those dollars. And the programs that were affected are the microenterprise program, the opportunity zone, alternative pathway. These are for, in large part, social programs or perhaps economic promotion of economic development. Our community engagement fund was approved at $300,000, And by time we get the new direction, we had approved 9 grants. So what you see here is the remaining balance from the Community Engagement Fund, approximately $176,000. So the sources from which the $3.3 million came from, we have 1.3, which we are from the reallocation. In your fiscal year 23 budget, you'd set aside 1.5. In this year's budget, 200,000, and in next year fiscal budget, you have 200,000. We, working with the community, rather than coming back next year, we said just go ahead and let's just allocate that in anticipation of receiving that 200,000 next year. Here are the projects that are currently funded, that weren't defunded, and we're moving ahead. We have housing programs, some property acquisition, some safety issues, gateway project, historical markers, and the Community Engagement Fund. To give you sort of an update on some of the projects, for the Community Engagement Fund, we approved 9 grants, and these, the grantees are currently in the process of implementing these programs within the community. We have Annie's project, which got some money to rehab their building for their nursery program, and they're working with parents of children who are in their school, so they're currently in that process of getting that building rehab. We have Sisters Mentoring Sisters. We did provide a grant to TFN to do some physical work to the farm there, as well as some programming. And in the bottom right-hand corner, you'll see a swing set. That's for a grant that we approved in Good Bread to provide a small playground there, as well as a reading program there. You'll see over on the bottom left hand, you'll see a pic of the girls that are in the Sisters Mentoring Program, giving back to the community, doing cleanup of streets in Frenchtown. The Frenchtown Rehab Program, $900,000. We approved grants for 33 homeowners, up to $25,000 each grantee, and the Urban League won the contract for that. They're presently in the process of doing that. And so getting homes remodeled and renovated using that funding. If you recall, Mr. Curtis Taylor was able to work with the city, and an additional $500,000 was brought to this program. So individuals who qualify for that additional funding could get up to $50,000 done in rehab. Although this currently doesn't have CRA funding, it's being carried out from a grant we received from the state, as well as some funding from the proceeds of the sale of the standard property. This is Ashmore Store. The community's desire is to use this building as a cultural center and some / museum. We have contracted with ALW to do the design of the work, and on the right-hand side of the screen, you sort of see a rendition that they took to Tile Trust for approval. The building is a historical building, and we have received that approval, so that hurdle has been crossed, and we're in the process of going through with further design, and hopefully by the spring, somewhere there, we'll have construction started. Carter Howell Strong Park, CRA, when you approved the plan, allocated $400,000 for improvements to the park, and Peerless Development that you know that is coming into the community along Tennessee Street. They have offered $100,000, so this project has a budget of $500,000. Our Parks Division, along with Neighborhood Affairs and a working group that the Community Action Team has established, we're working through what those improvements to the park will be. We collaborated with FSU to survey residents in the neighborhood and have a good list of improvements that we will be getting back with the community sometime this month to finalize what those improvements will be. Gateway projects, there are several gateway projects. While these were rolled into neighborhood first, some of these projects were going before neighborhood first. Some of these projects came out of the prior planning effort we had in Frenchtown, which is the placemaking project, but they were rolled into neighborhood first. One of the first one we have implemented here is installing some banners along Macomb Street. This banner is the flag that Frenchtown has adopted for its community. I'm sure you have seen this along Macomb Street. There's requests for banners to be installed at strategic location throughout the community. One of the other funded programs is the Affordable Housing Loan Construction Program. You provided funding up to $500,000 for this. And basically, this program offers a short-term construction loan up to $200,000 for developers or contractors to build homes within the Frenchtown community. We are operating this program in conjunction with the Housing Division. They manage it, they intake the application, and award the loans, do all the collecting, the underwriting on our behalf. Other programs that we still need to make some movement on, working with the community, is $450 that were given for acquisition and rehab of properties, safe space in the neighborhood, the traffic study, and an officer in residence program. So, to the proposed budget, with $3.3 million currently available right now for the community to allocate to move the implementation of the Frenchtown plan forward. Over this summer, in August and last month, we met with the community. We typically use what we call a balance that checkbook exercise, and the intent is to give everyone who attends the meeting an opportunity to say how they want those funding to be spent. And through that exercise, you can see here the CAT leaders working from what was provided in that exercise came up with a budget which we then present to the community. So they're asking that $1.2 million be added to housing, and this would be earmarked strictly for housing rehab. There is a great need for further stabilization of homes in Frenchtown with a focus on the D Street. They're asking for $1.5 million for acquisition. They believe that there are strategic properties within Frenchtown that having some control or some management over will help them in the direction of their communities, in the direction of their community rather. $600,000. This is a sort of a set aside. As you recall, they have $250,000 for traffic study. Anticipating the recommendation from that study, this would be some money to help to implement some of that recommendation. An additional $91,000 for placemaking, specifically to do public art, not only in the park or along Macomb Street, but other areas in the community. People have been requesting the installation of public art as well. So the requests from these 4 areas total $3.3 million, and that's the request on behalf of the community, and I'm available for any questions you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Baker. I think that this is outstanding. The work that has gone into making these things happen and realizing that there's more work to be done, and we're here today to help give you and the community what you need to be able to keep things going. I think it's interesting, too, to look at the number of responses that we had to this. It is important that we have community engagement and community response, and the members of the CAT team leading this effort, I think, is really, really helpful. And so, you know, whether you have 1 response or 10 responses, they're all valuable. and they all add to the makeup of what we do in our community. Mr. Director, could you tell us who are the members of the Frenchtown CAT team? Because we want to thank them for working with our staff to do this work.
Please help me if I forget, but I believe Mataki Akbar, Maisha Mitchell, and I think there's two more?
A total of 6, Daryl
six,
Scott,
Daryl.
Curtis Taylor, and Sabrina Turman Newby, and Lisa Roberts.
Thank you.
We want to thank them for volunteering to do this work, because they're not being paid to do this, but have an interest in making sure that our community is well represented. And the other reason I wanted their names out there is that I want people to know who the people are that are part of the CAT team. If you have any questions or concerns or things that you'd like to see done differently, these are the folks you need to reach out to and talk to. So, Sheila, do we have any public comment on this item?
We do not at this time.
Okay, we'll open it for board direction. Board Member Richardson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I too wanted to commend John. I attended that last Frenchtown CAT team meeting or neighborhood association meeting, and it was tumultuous to say the least, but a lot was accomplished, and John handled himself in a very professional manner and kept the meeting moving along and came to this conclusion along with Chairman Akbar, who was there as well. I had a couple of questions, John. One is, I noticed you said that the rehab money was going to 50-year-old homes. Are those homes to the point where they can be rehabbed? Or, I mean, 50 years, it's a pretty old house.
Yes, sir. The idea behind 50 years was that older homes would probably require more rehab work. All of these homes are occupied homes, so
Okay.
they're all up to some level of standard where they're occupied. The grant does not make an award to a vacant
Right.
property. It also recognizes historical homes as well, and the threshold for historical homes typically is 50 years,
50 years.
As well. So while it's 50 years, we're not talking about a broken down house. That would go to a completely new program.
Right. Okay, all right. And then the other question I had on the Ashmore building, where will parking be? I've always wondered, I mean, we've had this conversation about that being some type of museum or space of that accord, but I don't know where parking will be to accommodate that.
And that's one of the challenges we go through this that we'll have to address. Where would parking be? That area there, Frenchtown, is very dense, very urban, and on-street parking is very limited. So on-street parking is perhaps going to be one of the options. Can we find another dedicated parking space? They're asking for 1.5 million. Is part of that looking at what available land might be. Might be that there's nothing really close to the building. People might have to park and walk to whatever is at Ashmore.
Okay. And I know one part of the conversation was that intersection, the Macomb, 4th Avenue intersection. Is that going to be part of what will happen if Ashmore moves forward? Will that intersection get the improvements that were asked for the night of the meeting?
So
Fourth Avenue or Brevard?
Brevard, I'm sorry. I meant Brevard, my fault.
So there is funding for a traffic study for Frenchtown, not just that intersection, but all of Frenchtown. To look at pedestrian mobility, other traffic issues as well. The 600,000 that they're reserving here is the anticipation that the study is going to come back with certain recommendations. And this would be some seed money to help to move some of those recommendations forward. What that intersection would look like.
Yeah.
They know it's problematic, especially in AM and PM peak hours. What that solution would be, would wait to the result of that study. But the 600,000 anticipation to move some of those improvements forward.
Okay. And then I had just one final question, and John, I don't know if you're in a position to answer this, but the building right there on the corner of Old Bainbridge and Brevard, that was a workforce office at one point, it was ABC Liquor or some type of liquor store at one point. Do we know who owns that and what will be done with that property? I mean, it's been sitting there vacant now for.
I don't know, but we can certainly look at that and get you an
Okay.
answer.
Yeah, I was just curious. Okay.
Thank you.
That's all I had, Madam Chair. And if you need a motion, I would make a motion that we adopt the staff recommendation on the funding request.
Okay, I'll come back to
Okay.
the both of you. I saw Board Member Matlow.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for the presentation. It's great to see kind of the fruits of our labors and all the hard work that's being done on the streets. In regards to parking is always, tough. As a growing city, as we become more dense, push is going to come to shove, and we're going to have to walk a little. We're going to have to make things work. I know in a lot of areas, it's hard for businesses even to start because of the parking requirements and the expense that brings. So I think any way we can be creative and flexible to make sure new things can happen, I think is great. On the recommendations, I had one question about the property acquisition, economic development and community reinvestment. Have we identified properties, or has the CAT team identified specific properties?
So the CAT team has had discussion on properties that they're interested in. They just haven't said that out loud publicly as yet. So of the potential
why.
of that, you know what that does.
Yeah.
But they have talked about, and in fact, in the public domain, they had previously inquired about the Tooks Motel, which is now off the market, but that was one of the properties that they were interested in.
Okay. That's something I think we would need more information in the future, where this is going, who would have ownership of it, what's the community value of it. I did see a pretty large discrepancy between the average allocations from the participants and the CAT leaders' recommendations between placemaking and the property acquisition. So just with that in mind, just getting more information as we move forward, knowing exactly where it's going. Because what I would hate to see is us put $1.2 million in property acquisition, and then 3 years from now, why haven't we spent that money? Why haven't we spent that money? Because we didn't really have a plan going into it.
There is a lot of discussion that needs to be had on that portion, which entity is going to have, and all of these are preliminary discussion that the group has already started. Would the city, would the CRA hold it on? Nothing has been settled, but we do know from working with the Mr. Cox that prior to any acquisition, a detailed plan for the use, for the management, long-term management of that property building will have to be done before we get sign off on that.
Great, thank you, and thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay.
Madam Chair, on point. I know one of the issues that was discussed, John, was what would be the structure of the organization
Yes.
that would own the property, and that was never settled. And I know that's one of the issues that will have to be resolved before we can move forward with that acquisition. Like you said, who actually would own the property and be responsible for the ongoing maintenance and such. So yeah, that was a major part of the discussion at that meeting. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, just a couple of things. Commissioner Richardson, be careful talking about 50-year-old homes. My house was built in 1960.
Okay.
And it is in good sound structure, probably better than some that we are building today because of the material that was being used. So I believe in 50-year.
All right.
And former school board member, you can't build a new school unless the facility has been there 50-plus years. So keep that in mind, hold it down for the old school. The other thing I wanted to mention, I too had a question about parking for the Ashmore project. But let's keep in mind, we have public parking at the Renaissance building that can be used
Yeah,
with the
yeah.
shuttle that could bring people forward to the museum. My question, though, is that looking at that design, the property that's attached to Ashmore, has that been acquired?
No, that is still
Okay.
privately owned. The community has expressed interest there
I
as
understand,
well.
okay. So I wanted to mention that as well. So where there is a will, there is a way, we'll get it done. And as well as a part of the design, is there a possibility that a parking deck could be built as a part of that design?
Say that again, Commissioner?
Is it possible that a parking deck could be built as a part of that, on the backside of that? I'm just dreaming out loud.
Yeah.
So that then from the parking garage, kind of like the RA Gray building, you just go right in from that parking right there. So just some options to explore for parking.
Definitely.
Yeah, since you got to build something anyway, you got to do something anyway.
Yes.
And of course, that will change the traffic pattern. And I see Ms. Cheryl Collier-Brown nodding, because she has been forever reminding us that we need to
Right.
do some traffic studies over there, because, you know, she's neighbors with the governor. She and the governor live next door, and traffic piled up over there sometime. His house is protected, hers is not. And so she wants to make sure that she gets some of that protection, so she can get out of her driveway too.
Cheryl is actually a member of the traffic working group that they.
I suspected she
that they
would be.
put together.
I suspected that. Thank you. Thank you again, Mr. Baker, you and your team. What's the gentleman name?
I'm sorry, Gene Lelane is the newest member of our team. He comes to us with a degree in architecture from FAMU, so he's helping us on.
I thought he looked like a rattler. I just needed to be sure. So thank you and your staff for all that you do. I saw him with you at a Griffin Heights meeting, and I didn't know whether he was your security or what.
He serves as that sometimes.
So I just wanted to make sure we knew who he was. And are there other members of your team who are here?
Jillian.
Jillian, yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you all for all that you do.
Yeah,
Yeah, Jillian is actually the neighborhood services coordinator for both Griffin Heights and Frenchtown.
Very good, very good. Thank you all so much. So now, Board Member Richardson, I'll come to you to make your motion.
Yeah, I would move staff recommendation for allocation of these funds.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. Did you want to say something, Mr. Mayor?
Love it. Move forward.
Okay. All right. It has been properly moved and seconded that we accept the recommendation that has been presented to us. All in favor of the motion on the table, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Thank you very much.
Okay. And
Thank
Madam
you.
Chair, just one follow-up question, John. Could we be briefed as some of these issues, like the property acquisition, how that's accomplished, the museum, just a briefing every now and then on how progress is being made on those items?
Yes, sir. We'll work with Executive Director Cox to get that to you.
I was going to say, Board Member, you're asking, can you? You're supposed to say, I want to.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right. Mr. Director, since we're on Frenchtown Southside, can you give us just a brief of where we are with bond? A brief update on where we are with bond?
Neighborhood first?
Uh-huh.
Well, I believe we're going to be bringing something to you all in January. I believe it's going to be the reallocation for them, as far as there were a few dollars, I don't have the exact amount, that needs to be reallocated, similar to what we just did with Frenchtown. And that'll probably be in front of you all in January. The community is still discussing some of those elements as far as what they would like to invest in. So we should be able to bring that to you all in January.
Okay, thank you. I wanted that to be stated for anybody who might be listening, because you and I talked about this in our briefing. So I just wanted folks to know that that will be coming forward. Okay, we'll move on to our next agenda item, Downtown District Policy Formation and Direction. And I understand, in addition to what we have here, we have some new board members.
Yes.
I see at least one of them in the audience. I don't know if the other one is here or not. So would you do us the pleasure of introduction?
Yes, I can do the introduction.
Be ready now, be ready.
Yeah, well, do you have the names?
Yes.
for me?
I believe our new appointees include Dr.
Kelly Bailey.
Golden
Yes.
Bailey and
So I have
Mr.
not.
Murray.
Yes, I have not officially
Slate.
met Dr. Bailey yet, but Slate Murray is the other board member, committee member for the DRC that will be joining. So we are definitely very happy that they were willing to take the call and enjoy the next 3 years with us.
Well, congratulations and welcome on board. Unbuckle and let's ride. Kelly, would you stand so that Dr. Bailey, we've known each other forever. I don't want to disrespect you, but so that the public will see and know who you are. So when you're in the grocery store, they can approach you. All right, thank you. Kelly is a good friend of mine. She is the mother of three handsome young men, well, four handsome young men, and we've had the opportunity to watch them grow up in our community, and she is a proud business owner here in the downtown area. So welcome on board. And I know that Slayton Murray could not be with us today, but kudos to you guys on what you're doing on social media with CRA, because it's being announced. People are being able to see who these new board members are. So I think I met your social media person, and they're doing a fantastic job. Great job.
Thank you. Thank
Okay,
you.
now,
Suzanne Ripka drives a lot of that for the office.
well, thank you, team. All right, thank you. Okay, we're now going.
Oh, yes. So 8.01, Charles Street Investment, 440 North Development, Project Extension Request. We have Chuck Howell here with Charles Street Investment. He'll be able to give a brief update to you all on status of the project. And then we have Ms. Sherry Curtis will walk through the extension request.
Okay. Welcome, Mr. Howell.
Morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for having me this morning, to all you members of the board. I wanted to come by first off and give an update as to where we are with the project, but to start with just an overview of what we're doing and what the project is all about. We started this back several years ago when I first came before the City Commission about selling the old utility payment drive-through facility on Monroe Street to Envision Credit Union so that we could then purchase the bank site and move forward with our development. So after that and meeting with the CRA, we were able to put together a project which is 248 apartments, about 14,000 square feet of retail, a little over 300 parking spaces there where the Envision Credit Union used to be located, which we look as an underutilized piece of property, 2.5 acres in the heart of downtown, with it being mostly surface parking. So we're excited to have kind of proceeded and gotten to where we are. We have worked incredibly hard through one of the most difficult construction and development times that I've seen in my career, between supply chain issues, labor challenges, of course, COVID, and then just labor shortages and things alike. In addition, one of our previous topics was the oak tree on the corner of Monroe Street and Virginia. We were committed to keeping that tree as a part of the downtown overall environment because it represents something that all Tallahasseans are really proud of, and that's our true canopy roads. So soon after we had begun construction, part of our plan in conjunction with county arborists and our own civil team was a delicate hydro excavation of the roots. And when we found that those roots were more significant than what we had originally surveyed, we had to stop construction, redesign the building, resequence construction, and then begin back. And though that endeavor cost us a little over $500,000, we were able to keep that intact and part of the downtown landscape. So, because of all those reasons that I mentioned, we're not quite done with construction. We are close. About 200 of our apartments are completed. The retail is very close. If you drive, which I'm sure many of you do, drive by the site on a regular basis, you're going to you'll see that the front of the building is pretty much complete. We're going to begin landscaping. We've got, trees that'll be going there in front of the building, which will have lighting in them for in the evenings. Of course, new sidewalks with the new downtown requirements of bigger sidewalks, more walkability. Those things will really start to come to life here in the next few weeks. We still have a little bit of work to do on the inside with our amenity space and our outdoor amenities. We're currently working very close with the City of Tallahassee and the utility department to get our permanent power cut on. In fact, I had a conversation first thing this morning with folks from growth management about some final documents that we're trying to get signed off on, but we should have people to start moving into the building as early as January. Great. We have our original agreement with the CRA was that we would be complete with construction by December 31st of this year. While we'll be close, we won't quite be there. And so I'm here to respectfully request an extension until June 30th to get final C of O. We hope to be done with construction before then, but projects that are this big and complex, there's always I's to dot and T's to cross with the building department when it comes to making sure all of our drawings are approved and everything is settled and complete. All fees have been paid and things of that nature. And so that's why the request until June 30th. We will be having a grand opening probably right after the first of the year. I'd love to have each member of this board to come by and participate in that event. It certainly would not have happened. It would not be where it is at all if it wasn't for the CRA and the agreement that we were able to reach for some, participation in the project. So that's our update. That's our request. If you have any questions, I'm certainly available to answer anything you might have.
Thank you very, very much. Mr. Director, Chair, you said that Ms. Curtis is going to do she's available for question, or she's going to do some follow-up to this?
Well, she's available for follow-up if you all have any particular questions, but essentially we are asking for you all to approve a 6-month extension.
The mayor has moved for approval.
Second.
It's been seconded by Board Member Richardson. All in favor, any further discussion? Board Member Matlow?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to, been following the progress on the project, excited to see it to fruition, and also took notice that other people are investing in that area as well, and it's really building a more dense downtown, which I think is great. I appreciate your efforts to save the oak tree. I know that became contentious early on, but I think that's the great thing when community has things that they want, and we can work with developers to deliver that while we're also able to use CRA funds to bring it to fruition. I think that's a good working relationship, and I think this is a prime example how we can say, yes, we want to see good development, but there are also things that our community wants to see, and how can we balance those efforts. So I thank you for your work on that. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, all in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Thank you. And,
Thank you.
and Godspeed. We look forward to your grand opening and what will come of this new development downtown. And thank you for listening to our community, especially when it came to our tree. We appreciate that. Have you met Cheryl Collier-Brown?
Yeah.
Okay. I recommend that the two of you meet. She's your neighbor too. And she could be a good neighbor.
We've spoken previously over the phone and
Okay.
via email.
She could
so-
be a good neighbor, just y'all get together.
Absolutely.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right. Moving along, we are now moving to our joint policy. Joint, nothing? Nothing for 9? Okay.
Right.
Nothing for item 9, both districts, policy formation and direction?
Correct.
Do we have any public comments on non-agenda items?
At this time, I don't have any speaker cards.
All right, well, very good. Do we have any further board discussion that needs to take place?
Madam Chair,
Mr. Board Member Richardson?
just wanted to announce that next Wednesday, October 17th, the United Way of the Big Bend Forum on Alice Housing will take place at the Turnbull Center, and I will be on a panelist to discuss our housing initiatives.
Excellent. As our representative to AHAC, thank you.
Yes, and TLC, and
Yes, right.
yeah.
Very good.
And so that should be an interesting discussion, and hopefully some recommendations will come out of that for how we address affordable housing, including low-income housing in our community.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Mayor?
Thank you, Madam Chair. To piggyback on my comments last night in direction to the city manager, I have expressed my interest with our executive director of really getting to the bottom of what's going on at Washington Square. I know it's a complicated issue because not only do we have the tax credits involved, but the City of Tallahassee has liens involved on the property. So once again, I would like to strongly encourage the executive director to work with the city manager to be able to paint us a complete picture of what exactly is going on with Washington Square. First and foremost, we need to make sure that what is there currently is structurally sound. And how do we move forward? How can we be a positive influence with the private owner of Washington Square? But at the same time, what are all the options available for both the city and the CRA? That's all.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And Mr. Director, you know, you and I talked, I wanted it to be said in this meeting, how much money have we as a CRA invested in Washington Square?
No money.
I wanted to make sure because I want the information to go out correctly because that is not what is being said.
Right.
So that CRA has made no investment, has spent no dollars in Washington Square. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
All right, this meeting is our last meeting for the year, correct? And this will be my last meeting as chair. As you know, we rotate. So the chair at our meeting in January will be back to our mayor. And we look forward to all the things that are going to happen between now and then to report out, to make sure that his first meeting is a successful meeting, talking about all the stuff that we did to finish strong in 2023 as we march forward to 2024. If all hearts and minds are clear, this meeting is adjourned.
Thank you for your leadership.